guys get in the mentality of like, oh, we need this will make my life easier. And it's like, I understand that, but sometimes depending on what you do, it's easier just to rent that machine
100%.
for a couple times a year than having it sit at your shop. I don't want to own used stuff. I want my money in investments or in marketing spend, and I want to lease the stuff. And when I'm done with it, they take it back.
Welcome to Jobbers Masters of Home Service, a podcast for home service pros by home service pros. We are in sunny Las Vegas. Today we're talking about how 23-year-old Chase Gallagher built a $1.5 million business. I'm your host, Adam Sylvester. Today's guest is Chase Gallagher. He is the owner of CMG Landscaping, CMG University, and he's a Jobber brand partner. Chase, welcome to the show.
Adam, thank you for having me.
Yeah, so I'm glad you're here. So tell us, our listeners, just how it all started. Just give us a little background and how it all started for you.
Yeah, Adam. So I got started in the landscaping business when I was 13 years old. I was trying to get a job to make more money at the time, and no one would hire me because I was 13. You had to be 14 in my state. So I was on YouTube watching this guy named Geek to Freak, and he was teaching people how to do what he did. He had a couple lawns, and he mowed 65 lawns. So I took his flyer, emailed him, got his flyer, and passed out thousands of flyers around 3 big developments where I live at. And that's how I acquired my first 10 to 12 lawn mowing clients when I was 13.
Okay, cool. How did you get to them all?
So
Did you walk?
So a couple of them were in my neighborhood. And then at the time I was kind of putting the math together. When I was 12, I did a couple flyers the summer before and I got 2 clients. It was like a total of $85 in revenue my first year. And then when I was 13, my older brother got his license and my parents had bought him a used Ford Escape. So I was putting the math in my head. I was like, I can go to U-Haul, put a $400 hitch on that Ford Escape, $800 trailer, get a couple lawns, and buy the zero turn. So basically my brother was my transportation at 13.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you've got your older brother who's driving you around. And then from age 13 to, the next several years, you're just banging out lawns.
Just banging out lawns. From 13 to 16 and a half, I had a couple employees. My guy, Mike, when he was in my grade, but older, as soon as he got his license, he was my right-hand man. And then when I was 16 and a half, I convinced my mom to let me do online high school. So I get my license August 16th and school starts August 20th. I convinced her within that time period to let me do online high school. And at that time, I would wake up every day. I'd go to work. I'd have a part-time landscaping job. And then I'd work in my business all day. I'd come home, eat dinner, and bang out my online school at night. And so that was the last 2 years of my high school career. I did that.
Okay, good for you. So you basically homeschooled for a couple of years at the end of high school.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. I homeschooled too a little bit, so
Okay.
I know that, the online thing. It sounds like your parents were supportive, it sounds like, for the most part. Is that right?
Yes.
And they thought it was cool. I mean, did anyone else in your family have this drive that you had, or?
No one in my family is an entrepreneur. Both my parents are on both sides are just corporate people, but they were very supportive. My mom was very supportive. Even back in the day when I was 13, 14, 15, when my brother would be like, well, I'm not working for you and, give me issues, she would after work or on the weekends, she'd drive the car, drop me off in a neighborhood. I'd mow my lawns, come pick me up. So super supportive.
So how did it evolve into a little bit bigger business? You get your license and then you had some employees from the beginning, but how did you start to build it a little bit more?
So I think it really took off. My business skyrocketed when I had my license and I could literally do what I wanted. And so I just worked every second I could. I took every single lead, as you're a business owner, is an opportunity. And I treated that client with care and urgency and customer service. So yeah, 16, let's say I had 18 lawns, right? By 17, I had 62 or something like that.
So that'll keep you busy.
Oh yeah.
Big time, right?
Yes.
And so you're in Philly, and so it's pretty much it's not year round. The grass stops growing in November, but Did you do any snow or anything?
We did. So back then, I didn't have any commercial snow equipment, but I had trucks and I had a lot of my high school buddies. So I was basically the guy that these bigger companies would sub out to handle all the sidewalks. It was the biggest pain in the butt. But at the time, I didn't have the 15 grand to go buy the V plow and salter.
Sure. How much money did you have to start off from the beginning?
So I remember when I first started, I had a dirt bike and I sold that. I think I got $1,800 for it or something. So,
okay.
So I passed out these flyers. I told myself when I get my first 10 lawn mowing clients, I won't have enough time after school to mow them before it gets dark out. So I'll need that zero turn. I had it picked out. Literally the mower shop's a mile from my house. So once I hit like 12 clients, they gave me $400 for that. The mower was $2,400, and I sold my dirt bike. I had $1,800 and cash from doing some of the work. And then the trailer was $800. The hitch was $400. So got started with a couple grand.
I'm curious who the first person you hired was who wasn't your friend.
So,
or have you?
Yes. Oh yeah.
Okay.
I've done the whole Indeed thing.
Yeah.
So it was really the Indeed thing. I was talking about this with someone recently. Like I was 17, and I needed employees. So I went on Indeed, and sometimes you're 17. I'm not like the best screener of like teen, so these guys were coming from all sorts of backgrounds. And like, I remember the one morning, the guy, I had these two new guys in my truck. It was like their first day. And like the one guy, it's a brand new truck. It was a Dodge Ram. And he like pulls out a cigarette and starts smoking in the back of my truck. And I was like, yo, dude, that's a no-go.
Yeah, no thanks. So I know that when you hire your friends, we've all done this to some degree, it's hard to get rid of them if they're not good, right? And so how did you handle that when you had a friend who started off good, but then started underperforming? How did you handle that dynamic? You're friends, but I don't want to fire you. It's hard.
Yeah, it's definitely hard to work with friends. At that stage of my life, I was good buddies with my brother's friends too, and they were all older, so they all had the licenses, a little bit more, just more knowledge. I hired a lot of them. But yeah, I mean, your friends aren't going to work as hard as like skilled, landscapers and stuff like that. So, but a lot of times in my area, like I would hire them for the season or the spring season. They would work a ton of hours, and then like they got tired of working, and it would work out for me because it would be like July and it would just be the lawn mowing. So it ended up working out.
Okay, so question.
Yeah.
I'm guessing a lot of our listeners are thinking this. How did you learn? Because did you ever work for another company before?
So yeah, there's two aspects I learned. I had my own business, mowing grass I knew how to do. And then I slowly ventured out into like the spring cleanup, the mulching projects. And then when I was like 15, a buddy of ours said, hey, my boss needs some help with some spring cleanups. So at the time I had 3 days worth of mowing, and I wanted to fill the other 2 days. So I actually went and worked for a very small landscape outfit at the time. And I did that 2 days a week. So I learned tons from that guy. So that guy, Wes, is now my project manager, but I learned a lot of like the basic stuff. We weren't doing patios. We were doing mowing, mulching, drainage, tree work, stuff like that. But I learned a ton from there. And it's just having that experienced person, because he knows other people that know how to get patios done and vice versa. So I learned a lot from there. And then I kept growing my company, and Wes ended up selling his company and working for a larger outfit. 2 years later, he got sick and tired of that boss and that operation, and I would hire Wes on the weekends. He had a compact tractor. On my bigger jobs, I'd pay him $500 for the day. He'd come and work for me for the whole day. And I was like, dude, why don't you come aboard? And that winter, we had like one of the best winters I had. I made like 65 grand. It was just me and a truck.
Doing what?
Snow removal.
Okay.
So commercial snow, and I had all this cash. So I was like, Wes wanted a salary, all that comes with it, workers' comp, the whole thing. So it was a lot of money at the time, but I was ready to make the move. So I remember we had like 8 dinners about like this thing, because you know what I'm saying? He probably was like, all right, this kid's, this 17, 19-year-old or whatever is going to hire me. Like, let me make sure it's right. So yeah, that's kind of the background there.
So many stories like the one you're talking about, businesses like yours, start just in those midnight conversations with your buddy. You're like, hey, how can we actually do this thing? And working out the details and dreaming a little bit.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So how did you, I am curious about the mowing part. How did you learn how to cut a lawn nicely? Did you just have a eye for detail that a lot of people don't have? Because I've stuck a mower in a brand new person's hand and they couldn't do it at all. So
Right.
How did you figure it out?
So I used to mow my parents' lawn.
Okay.
And my dad would teach me, like, it was just a riding mower. I'll be honest with you, I was not the best lawn mower for the first season or two.
You learned a little bit as you went. Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Yeah. I'm all for that. I just think that people have this idea that like, I love what you did. I love that you went out and worked with somebody else for 2 days a week and got some of that experience, but you didn't let that stop you from starting the lower entry thing, which was just mowing lawns. You could
Right.
do that well enough. You learn quickly how to refine it.
Right.
So that's a great start. So then you get to a little bit older, you're building a team.
Yeah.
What were some of the difficulties between age 13 and 18 that we haven't talked about yet? Like there's some difficulties there. I want to hear about those.
I mean, you name it. I think our biggest hurdle in the home services industry is labor, is team members, right? So we talked about hiring our friends. They're not reliable. They're not hardworking. You talk about my age. You talk about lack of knowledge and experience, lack of confidence when you're going on estimates, meeting these people that want a $25,000 patio, so
Yeah.
it's like any business.
So you put out flyers, you did that whole thing, but you didn't build your business just on flyers. So how else did you, from a marketing standpoint, how did you learn all those kind of skills? I'm curious.
I think it was a lot of YouTube University. I think I have a little bit of knack for marketing and like money management and sales. The first 2 or 3 seasons, it was flyers. I remember like my mom had a corporate job. She'd stay late once a week and print out like 3,000 flyers, bring them home. I'd sit there all night rubber banding on garbage bags, and I convinced my parents to like after work drive me through these neighborhoods, and I'd put them on the mailbox because you can't put them in.
Right.
And so I did flyers for the first 2 or 3 seasons. Then I got smart, but it wasn't smart looking back at it, and did EDDM marketing.
Mm-hmm.
I would save my cash. It was like $5,000 to $6,000 every spring. I'd do a blast, and then
EDDM is every door direct mail through the post office, where they put a flyer in with the mail for every person.
Exactly.
And you can do a lot, but it's also kind of expensive.
It's expensive. It takes time because you buy the flyers in bulk, so you get 10 boxes shown up to your house, and then you pick the zip codes that you want to target. And so if it's 672 houses, you have to count the flyers out, rubber band it. Like, it was a whole operation at the time I had the time. And then I got into yard signs, and like I remember one season I bought, let's say 50 yard signs or something, 25, and I passed them out all over town one night, and like that actually kind of put me on the map, because when I would hang out with Wes, or I'd be at like his shop, these guys would be like, "Who? Yeah, I saw your sign. Like I was wondering who you were," all this kind of stuff. So yard signs, word of mouth, treating every opportunity like it's the best opportunity, and people spread the word.
One of my favorite things is the night after we do a huge yard sign campaign, and all my friends are like, "I saw your signs today," right?
Yes.
So have you done any paid stuff? Have you done any Google ads? Have you done any Facebook marketing? Anything like that?
I have. I've done paid advertising twice in my business career, like an actual campaign. I am currently, from my business model, I'm currently against the Facebook and Google ads. I only say that because the results that I received from it weren't the best. When I was like 20, I spent $8,000 on a 3-month, Facebook and Google campaign. The lead generation wasn't there. And then last July, I spent another like 8 or 13 grand. Let's say we got 4 jobs totaling of $28,000, $32,000. And like when you do the math, it's like I just paid the client $3,000 to do their patios. So my current business model is a lot of organic lead generation.
Yeah. And to clarify, you don't cut grass anymore, right? You're doing mostly hardscaping, building patios and retaining walls and that kind of stuff. Sod.
Yes.
Do you do sod?
We do. It's not a big, we don't do it too much. I call it project-based landscaping. Retaining walls, hardscaping, design and build, plantings, lighting, tons of drainage work in my suburb.
Okay.
So
average tickets around what, 8-10 grand?
yeah, give or take.
Chase, I want to take a quick pause. It's a great conversation. I want to talk about Jobber for a minute. In terms of your team and onboarding your team, how easy is it for your team and your new users to get on board with Jobber?
That's one of the things that I love about Jobber. It's not like you don't have to be a tech wizard to figure out the app. It's almost like a game. So it was pretty simple. Literally in a couple hours, I got my project manager on the app, figured out how to use it, used it every single day, my foreman, everyone. So very simple and easy to use.
Yeah, you send them the text and the email with the invite. They click the link, and they're up and running in minutes. It's really straightforward.
Yes.
You need to try Jobber as well. New users get an exclusive discount at jobber.com/podcast deal, and you can expand your business with your team. It's easy to onboard. Go try it today. Money management. You're 13 years old. I'm sure it wasn't all roses, but at some point you did have some money, probably more money than most of your friends had.
Right.
How did you deal with it and not just blow it all? Or did you blow it all?
No. So I was like, I've always had a knack for money since a little kid. Like I remember begging my parents to do chores for $2 to like, it was just, I don't know what it was. So when I got those first couple dollars, I just saved it and saved it and saved it. And I just fell in love with like watching my bank account grow. And then, like saving money I would label it as a skill set. Like, so I learned that very early on. And that way, when I got to 16, 17, 18, 23, my money management's already there. I already have savings accounts. So I want to go buy a truck or a piece of real estate or, a trailer, like it, the growth opportunities there. So,
let's go into a little bit. So do you know Mike McCalloway's Profit First? Are you familiar with that?
I do follow him. I don't know the technique behind it.
So I am curious, like from a very, let's go a little bit deeper. So how do you, what accounts do you use? when you decide to buy something, do you just look at your bank account and decide if you have enough money for it? Like, how do you go about it?
I think in my business currently, I am less focused on my cash. When I'm buying a truck or a piece of equipment, it's more about my yearly overhead. Where are we at with the percentages? Is it 30%? Is it less? Is it more? And where am I at with booked out work to say, all right, Chase, you got to go order another F-250 and a trailer or something like that. And then from there, I decide like my trucks, I track lease currently. I do have one truck that's not leased. The trailers I buy in cash. The equipment, my compact tractor, my skid steer, I use the bank's money or like the John Deere, Wells Fargo. So certain things I buy in cash, others I have payments on. And then as far as the money management goes, in the project-based business, and this is what I teach my students, you can get a high off of all the deposits, right? Because like you know, springtime rolls around, you closed 150 grand worth of work in the month, and you got like all this cash sitting there, and guys just want to go and spend it. That's what happens to these pool builders too. So what I teach and what I actively do is I have my business checking account and I have my savings account, or I label it project deposit account. So, and we collect about 50% deposits. So when I get a deposit, it goes into the business checking, then I go on my online app and I transfer that deposit into my project deposit account. That money does not get spent or, goes to me or whatever until that job is completed.
Okay. Why?
For money management. So if I'm booking out a month and a half of work, and I put that money into my checking account and I'm not tracking it, I'm not like, it's not separated, then I think, oh, I can go buy that truck cash. Oh, I can go do the trailer, and you start spending, and then you don't realize on the back end, oh, you got 10 grand of materials going to hit the credit card and you got to pay that Amex off, or, payroll, bonuses, you name it. So it's like, it's just a way to like steadily manage your money.
Yeah, I love this. This is really great information, because I think a lot of people, they get the deposit. They don't realize you got the deposit for a reason.
Right.
Now, our listeners, they got the deposit. You got it because you have expenses for that job.
Right.
And you need that money not for anything else but that job. But if you spend it, it's gone and you're toast.
Yes.
And that's how people really get in a hole big time.
And you in the contracting business, you need to know your numbers. And in the beginning, like it was a struggle for me. I didn't know them. Once I fully understood what my yearly overhead is, what my daily overhead is, then like the profit really started rolling in.
Yeah. So you touch on the overhead thing for the year. That's really a budget.
Right.
So you budget for the year, it sounds like.
Right.
Any solid business owner does. And so if you're looking, well, I budgeted $180,000 this year for equipment purchases or whatever it is. And so if I go out and spend 3/4 of that in the first quarter,
right,
we're in trouble.
Right.
But if you go out and you stay on pace, you spend 1/4 of that each quarter, then you can spend it and you've budgeted for it. Now, if you can try to save some of that, you can, you shave it off. I like how you mentioned that, because you want to measure it against the goal, not just like willy-nilly, well, we need this. Well, did you budget for it? And how much have you spent already?
Right.
And
I think a lot of times, like, guys get in the mentality of like, oh, we need this will make my life easier. And it's like, I understand that, but sometimes depending on what you do, it's easier just to rent that machine
100%.
For a couple times a year than having it sit at your shop. So like there's a big company by me and they do $100 million in services across the country. And the CEO says, I lease every single thing I have. I don't want to own anything. And he's right. Like, I'm selling one of my skid steers right now, and it's a used piece of equipment. It's 3 years old, and it's just it's kind of like a pain in the butt, like sitting there. Like, I don't want to own used stuff. I want my money in investments or in marketing spend, and I want to lease the stuff. And when I'm done with it, they take it back.
I totally agree. One of the biggest toys that our industry buys is a leaf vac. I don't know if you know about this.
Yeah.
At least in Virginia, leaf vacs are big. I've never bought a leaf vac because you use it 6 weeks out of the year. And I would just much rather sub that out to a buddy of mine who has a leaf vac, who's maintaining it and all that kind of stuff. So I'm a huge fan of renting equipment, because it's so much simpler.
Right.
Unless you use it every day, like a zero turn. You wouldn't lease a zero turn. But
right.
Yeah, I love that. How do you save for taxes?
So I have that project deposit account. I'm kind of active with my P&Ls. So my accountant says, hey, you need to send these checks in quarterly, stuff like that. And then I kind of have a tax strategy on my other business, which is real estate, to kind of like not eliminate my tax bill, but deduct it quite a bit.
Yeah. Okay. Chase, Jobber's blue collar report just came out, And 45% of Gen Zs say that they feel pressure from their parents to attend college.
Yep.
What would you say to those families who don't necessarily, the parents that is, who don't necessarily feel like they support a diverse career path, like in the trades or starting out on your own? What would you say to them?
My first rebuttal would be, if you're paying for it, I'll gladly go to college. If you're not, then it's my decision. Why put your kid in, tons of college debt, coming out going to make the same or less than what like my foreman would make, or, one of my managers would make.
Yeah, I agree. I also think that some people just are not geared for college. They're geared for working with their hands. They're geared for working outside. And why try to cram a square peg in a round hole?
Yeah.
Another interesting stat in the report is that 83% of Gen Z said they were not educated in high school about going into different fields like vocational school and trade school and that kind of thing. 83%. And so how can high school do a better job of educating their students? Because there's a lot of students, they may not all fit in the same category.
Yeah, I think there's a couple different things. You can bring in guest speakers. I think some of these students, like they're doing now, like they go on Instagram, online, and see the different opportunities amongst the trades. And I think it's going to take a mindset shift amongst our like culture to do the simple math that, hey, I'm not going to spend 200 grand on a 4-year college and make 25 bucks an hour. I'm going to go become a plumber, make 85 G's a year for those 4 years. Mm-hmm. So I think it's just a mindset shift and maybe getting the public school system to adjust their mentality a little bit.
Yeah, I would love to have like a business owner come into the high school and talk.
Right.
That never happens. At least never happened for me.
Not me either.
So, yeah. Jobber's Blue Collar Report is out, full of interesting stats about the marketplace and the trades. You can find it at jobber.com. How have you reinvested in your business?
Great question. Definitely team members, right? Like taking the leap of faith. And sometimes a big point I like to make, especially to my students, is like when I went from literally $250,000 a year and I hired an employee that cost the business $85,000 a year. Like I wasn't thinking at the time, but and I went through some growing pains that first year. Then we jumped up to 600, then 850, 1.5. So sometimes the math might not math the first 12 months, but if you can look long term, 24 months. Trucks, equipment, right? Like I track lease my stuff. I'm not paying these things in cash. We have all new trucks. So my guys, there's not a breakdown. There's not like a truck sitting at the shop. Bought a property for my business. So I bought 32 acres of raw land, and that's where my yard is. And then I have like 6 or 7 other tenants on that property that are contractors, and that's built a community. So on some of our bigger projects, we'll sub out George, the stonemason, or my dumpster rental guy, and it just, different things like that, like being like, that's kind of a community. I mean, we talk about like coaching programs and communities. That's been a huge asset to my team.
Chase, I really want to talk to our listeners here, our young listeners, because there's a lot of young guys out there, young girls who have the same drive as you have the same desires. And you can be really inspiring to them. And with owning the property and doing some of these things now, you're really trying to build some generational wealth and actually increase your net worth, not just for yourself, but for the future. So what's your vision for that? And how would you encourage our listeners in that?
Yeah, you want to build a business that might be sellable, right? That's one. You want to, like, a lot of it goes back to money management. I take my cash, it goes into a savings account, and when I find a good real estate deal, I'm going to buy it. And so, and real estate, helps you out in multiple ways. It saves you on taxes, cash flow, depreciation, all this kind of stuff. So that's been my investing strategy, is like, I'm frugal to compared to like what I make. I live below my means. I take literally 85% of my net income and just reinvest that. It's either in savings or it's in, real estate, retirement accounts, stocks, you name it. And that's how I'm going to create generational wealth. So like you buy a couple $1 million worth of real estate, let's say 1 to 3 years from now, and then you're paying down on that real estate, 5 years later, you refi, you pull out some cash, you go buy another 2.5 million. And so like, it's just a process, and business owners have an advantage right now because the SBA will give them, you can buy a commercial property with, 5% down. And I think that there's multiple exit strategies, right? So if I'm building a business that's sellable, and then Chase under a different corporation goes out and let's say I buy a commercial property for my business every 2 years for the next 10 years. Then Chase can go and sell his business in 10, 15 years, but Chase still owns 5 commercial properties, with tenants in place and stuff like that. And that can be their second exit, so to speak, or they can hold it for the cash flow. So that would be a great strategy for someone to build generational wealth.
Awesome. Yeah. Living below your means is a great starting point for
Yes.
sure. I love how you said that. Yes. All right. I want to circle back around and close with, what's your networking strategy? I think you're a strong networker, and I want to hear just how it sounds like you have some tenants that you rely on and use each other for each other's business. I like that. What else?
I mean, networking's been a huge thing for me. I joined a BNI group when I was 18. A funny story about that is I didn't know the age requirement was 18. So I actually went in there when I was 17. I was a senior in high school, and I tried to show up and sign up. And when they asked me for my ID or something, like, well, you can't join yet. So I did BNI for 2 years. I met 40 local business owners for 2 years straight and created great relationships. I show up to different events. I'm online, right? I'm posting myself, my team, what we're doing day to day. And then it's like, I'll be at the local coffee shop just smiling and talking to people. I just love to connect with people. Mm-hmm. And networking is like, I tell my students this, my network is the most valuable thing I have at my age. I could be worth millions of dollars. It's my network, because it's the people that you connect and put together that's gonna make things of value.
Your network is your net worth.
Yes.
I heard that. Yeah. That's great. What I found as my business has grown in my city and I become more of a public figure, I'm not exaggerating that, it's very small, but like, people do recognize me now.
Yes.
People recognize you.
Yes.
And so when you go out into the town and you go to the coffee shops, people do see you.
Yes.
And you do have to conduct yourself in a slightly higher level because people are watching.
Yes.
And which is a good thing. I appreciate that. It's a good thing. But the spotlight is kind of on you once you reach a certain level of success in your market.
Right.
People know you. Clients see you around town, all that kind of stuff.
Yes. Yep. You got to be careful what you're posting. You got to be careful, how you're acting, all that kind of stuff. Everyone's watching for sure.
Yeah. Chase, this is great. I'm going to boil our conversation down to 3 actionable steps here. Number 1 is, yard signs and flyers still work. They still work. Traditional market, you don't need to go spend a bunch of money on Google. You can still do yard signs and flyers. Number 2 is money management. Make sure you have a project deposit account and do not spend those deposits too soon. You need that money later. Number 3 is live below your means. You're gonna be tempted to go out and get all the flashy toys and spend all your cash. Keep your cash, reinvest it. You don't have to go get all those fancy toys. Chase, any final words to our listeners, particularly our young listeners, for getting started, and any final words for them?
The biggest thing is for the young people is just get started. You don't have to have all the answers. Just put some sort of action into place to get started on your business.
Yeah, awesome. How do people find out more about you?
You guys can hit me up on Instagram at Chase_Gallagher. Shoot me a message if you need help growing and scaling your home service business.
Bingo. I really appreciate you being here. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you, Adam.
I think you're just really inspiring. Keep it up. Keep inspiring your students. Keep serving your clients. Keep serving your team. You're having a big impact, so keep it up.
Thank you.
And thank you for listening. I hope you heard something that will make your business more profitable and more efficient. And I hope you're inspired today. I'm your host, Adam Sylvester. You can find me at adamsylvester.com. Your team and your clients deserve your very best, so go give it to them.